The role of the government in any sector in India is that of an enabler, more so, of course, when we're talking about the nation's telecom and communications industry. The upcoming telecom policy will be key for the future of this industry and its business models. To shed more light on this and to talk to us this morning and to talk to our wonderful audience this morning, could I call up here the President of Reliance Jio Infocom, Mathew Oommen, if you could please come and address the audience. Mathew.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And I will stand here. It's much easier. And first of all, it's my pleasure and extremely my privilege to be here. In fact, I had I was trying to tell you guys the airline got me late here. But my father always tells me, say the facts that you don't have to think about it later. What happened is I had a small headache and I got delayed. That's the fact. And so apologies for that. And when you look at a nation, there is no one nation where change and disruption is the norm. And that is Destination India. One nation that has got both in plenty. And this is the resurgent India, if I may, where we are rewriting history. And each one of us have an opportunity to rewrite as history makers. And we know, to be very frank, driven by our own Prime Minister, he's been driving the digital India growth as well as the new India growth. And in his own way, rewriting history. And I would also say that there is no harm collectively, whether it is Bharati, whether it is Vodafone, whether it is Reliance, Jio, BSNL, everyone put together. We have the opportunity to take credit for all the accomplishments that we have seen in the last 18 months. Even though there were certain folks who believed that it would never happen in 18 months, but it's at least a 10-year journey. That is being changed because aspirational India, young India, is demanding, if I may, from each one of us, the telecom body, the digital body of this nation, that we deliver on the pace of innovation, we deliver on the pace of creating new infrastructure, not obsolete, age-old infrastructures, new infrastructures, and we deliver on affordability and reachability to all. And we do, by the way, have a responsibility as this body, as each one of us, to protect the security of this nation and its people. We have a responsibility to create new jobs as an industry. And that job can only be created through creation of innovation pillars. And, I would say, pillars of empowerment. And that can only be done through a national policy, like I mentioned earlier, which is a national digital and national telecom policy. And we all know that what has happened and what is happening is how we behave, how we communicate, how we collaborate, how we think, how we shop, how we search. The world is changing around us, and hence security and policy and privacy and protection is all extremely important. Folks, what I would love to talk about today is about a nation where collectively innovation is unleashed. If I can figure out how this works, beautiful. If you think about it, the last 18 months, primarily, from 100 to 150 megabyte, from a 0.15 exabyte to nearly 2.8 exabytes, going to, according to Ericsson's predictions and other predictions, about 15 exabytes. We already have 1.1 billion Aadhaar cards. We've got 12x in growth in data projection by 2023. We would have over 500 million people on a massive market in the middle class. And World Bank has said this will be the economic market to watch for. And I think we should take pride in it as an industry. Now, this is just to give you a perspective of 2018 to date, in the last 3 months, what has happened. National energy grids being attacked potentially of the US government. Facebook data, and we know a lot today about Cambridge Analytica. And we will talk about that a little bit, not just necessarily about Facebook, but data as a whole. Cryptocurrency theft. Of course, the coin check in Japan apparently was compromised because of a network server issue. The European AI Alliance to create ethical guidelines on the use of AI. India's military warns against WhatsApp being potentially managed through external hacks. Net neutrality as a policy could potentially be ending. EU attempting to remove terrorist illegal activities very quickly, not in days, but in hours. Now, these are my personal perspectives in terms of what could happen in the next few months and beyond. Bitcoin may be a bust. That's okay. But blockchain is a fundamental technology. Anytime that is information processed, anytime there is a trust factor that needs to be put in together, I would say blockchain is a networking and security strategy and plan wherever there is trust and information exchange. Edge computing. When we talk about 5G, it is imperative that we talk about edge computing, whether it is for growth of data, or whether it is for latency, whether it is for performance. Physical digital integrations to next level. You know, we know about my mom, who's 85, and or my spouse, who would call the local kirana and say, give me that whatever, those onions, whatever. And he or she knows how to take care of the mom. But this could be a digital button push, and things get ordered and things get delivered. The new world we are living in. Now, the new world, when Alexa is watching, when Home Hub is telling you what to do, when some of the devices is supposedly taking over and knowing more than what you know about yourself, indeed, the data better be secure and it's used for what it's to be used for. Look at lattice cryptography. I'm a big believer in lattice cryptography because I sincerely believe that's a new age of what I call as a new way of algorithmic structures, or actually algebraic structures. Private-public academic collaboration. I think that is bound to happen, it should happen, it will happen, and it is important in India. We strive to make it happen. EU's general data protection. You know, I'm not a big fan of reading data protection documents, but I did have to go through this a couple of days back, and I will talk about it specifically in a moment. Europe's FLAME project, I just used the FLAME project as an example. Telecom Italia has got a project, Vodafone has a project, US has a project, India has a few projects, but it is important to create the right criteria, the right investments. We talked about how much investments we are making in R&D just a little while ago. It is imperative that we do not create $5 million, $10 million, $20 million companies. We create $10 billion, $100 billion companies. We as a nation with 1.3 billion people and over 5.3 million IT engineers better wake up and create world's greatest icons. And I think we have an opportunity and we shouldn't give up on that opportunity. AI-powered robot, whether it is the Ganges to whether it is to water shortage, we have an unique opportunity. That's my belief. Now, India's journey to global platform leadership. I absolutely believe that accelerating transformation and emerging opportunities with an India Stack 3.0, and I will talk about the India Stack 3.0. There is nothing that prevents us as a nation. Once again, let me repeat. We have the tools, we have the capabilities, but yes, we need to have the mindset, we need to have the belief, we need to have the investments, and we need to be open. Open just not in technology, open to collaborate, open to communicate, open to work together. I think it is extremely important, and that can take us to new levels. And to be a leader, because I sincerely believe the journey that we are taking today can indeed make us a new leader. Now look at this landscape. Now I could put GeoChat, I could put Hike, I could put whatever, but these are small players on the India flip side of Flipkart, right? You look at this space and you will see that between the United States and the China, you can see the landscape. There is no data in India. Right? Hardly there is any data for the citizens, right? These are platforms that are known by us, but platforms that are being extremely successful. If I ask someone to raise their hands, I am pretty sure 99% of the people in this room will raise their hand and say, I'm using WhatsApp, or I'm using Facebook. If there is a data breach, and if there is a data breach tomorrow, on any one of these content guys whose data doesn't reside in India, do we have the legal authority to prosecute them? I'm not sure. Now, what should be the transformative pillars that drives our economic leadership? I absolutely believe that compute. What is compute? Compute is chipsets, systems on a chip. We need to own compute. We need to create that innovation and that IPR that is needed to create compute. We need to have storage. We need to have the right cloud. We have an Amazon cloud, we have a Microsoft cloud, we have an Alibaba cloud. There is no India cloud. Let there be an India cloud. And I absolutely believe an India cloud with data analytics is a must for us as a nation, as a digital nation. Then when you talk about AI and machine learning, I'm seeing a lot of efforts recently, which is a great thing. But how do you scale? How do you take it to the next level? Niti Aayog is trying to push, and it is each one of our responsibility among this group to make sure that that really happens. Because an AI machine learning could be embedded in a chipset. It doesn't have to be sitting on a server. When you have IoTs in this new world, it is not millions of devices, folks. It is billions of devices. It could be hundreds of millions of devices per square kilometer in terms of sensors. Could there be AI and ML embedded in each one of those SoCs? Or should that SoCs be imported from somewhere else on the planet so that there could be breaches? We live and we are going to be living in a new digital world. And it is important that we as a nation invest and ensure that we are successfully driving the success in each one of these spaces. I'm not going to get into the nuances of it, but I think it's extremely important to recognize as well as realize the opportunity. Now, I talked about the India Stack 3.0. What exactly is the India Stack 3.0? It is an extension of the India Stack 1.0. I absolutely believe, and by the way, when I write cryptocurrency, it's not necessarily about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, I am not a big believer in cryptocurrency per se, but I'm an extremely big believer in the concept and in the technology of blockchain as a fundamental building block. We could actually be the blockchain nation, the first nation to implement blockchain end-to-end, because the India Stack 1.0 can be leveraged. Aadhaar itself can be leveraged into a digital control domain, because blockchain is a networking and security layer. It is not just a layer. And when you look at it, AI and machine learning, blockchain, IoT management, it is when I look at this, folks, what I am talking to you about is each one of these become a platform of intelligence that we can use across the various ministries. We do not need a blockchain to be implemented by one ministry, another blockchain to be implemented by another ministry, and another blockchain to be implemented in one other state. Folks, people who run telecom networks and IT networks know, you put two different boxes together. It's weeks and sometimes months and sometimes years of interoperability and protocols and interface. If we do not have a common framework that we agree through the national digital and the national telecom policy, I think we are in big digital chaos. It is extremely important to be candid. It's extremely important to be detailed. It's one thing to talk at 50,000 level, but it's another thing to collaborate and create what is needed for us as a nation. For us to be taken from one level to the level that we need to be. Now, again, an opportunity. An opportunity to create a multi-layer digital grid ecosystem. There are certain grids that are prone to be attacked and to be protected. Be it the people's grid, to start with, the citizens' grid, followed by the defense grid, the national disaster recovery grid, the energy grid, the health grid. These are all critical grids that needs a multi-layer protection. You cannot be exposed by even a single uniform grid. There are security layers. Now, I want to talk about how do you create multi-billion-dollar unicorns. Why is it that I'm glad to see the Flipkarts of the world? I'm a big believer. Whenever I see a youngster who comes to talk to me about creating an idea, but unfortunately, we still don't have the platform of these great ideas to become the next Googles, the next alphabets of India. But we never give up. We are a nation that has never, ever given up. And I think the opportunity is there. Why is it that when you look at the different attributes here and the levers, take a look. It's not that you're trying to create 200 innovations in India. That may not work. You take the United States. It is the Silicon Valley. It's a little bit of Boston. Maybe some Los Angeles for certain things. You create knowledge hubs. You create innovation hubs. You create cross-pollination hubs. And that's what makes the hub successful. You take China. It's predominantly Beijing, Shenzhen, and maybe Hangzhou. Why Hangzhou? Because of Alibaba. Right? It is not, you are not plastering that all over a country. We need the right levers. We need the right programs. We need the right culture. The startup culture is extremely important. I come from a state of Kerala. And I was speaking to one of the ministers out there. And he was telling me one of the biggest deficits that they have is having coconut climbers. It's a huge problem. Why is that? Because there are a lot of people with a lot of degrees in Kerala. And none wants to be a coconut climber. Imagine, with the power of technology, you give him a gadget that he can operate from his phone. And this machine goes up, cuts the coconut, brings the coconut, slices the coconut, gives the coconut inside. Man, imagine now he's a sophisticated entrepreneur. His aspirations have been met. And that's the opportunity for us. Now, the GDPR. The GDPR, if you look at it, I look at it, the right to object, please don't take my data, the right to be forgotten, the right for data portability and service portability. Let me remind you, folks, today there are a lot of companies who don't allow to take my data from one place to the other. I'm not mentioning the names. If you belong to a social network, can you take that data and port it somewhere else? But in the telecom world, you can port your mobile number. And we should do service portability as well. Shouldn't there be? Because otherwise, you're stifling competition. You should encourage competition. There should be new and emerging social networks of the world. How can a new social network in India be successful if data portability is not there? Consent framework. Let there be consents. Consents, not for creating a paranoia. Consent for protection. Consent for privacy, if you will. And I suggest we have immediately an IPDR or an IDPR, the India Data Protection Regulation. If you look at the current status, the protection is through the IT Acts 2000 as well as the IT rules of 2011. That's where the data protection. Of course, Mathew has released a paper. It's in its infant stages. I think there is a great opportunity for us to do a combination of e-privacy. What is e-privacy? It's a legislation that is happening in EU. The legislation that mandates anyone who is communicating on any network, be it a telecom network, OTT network, any network, processing and communicating, have to abide by that. We have a great opportunity to simplify in our comprehensive national digital and telecom policy from a framework like this. Now, as telecom operators, I see my friends here from telecom and the COAI. Now, we may have divergent views, but I can assure you, we have the view of the customer, innovation, and progressiveness on our minds. And I can tell you, I've had the pleasure, I'm an extremely blessed person. I've had the pleasure to interact with some of the most innovative minds of this world. I can very politely and humbly make that statement. I can also tell you that it is important when you look at, not because I currently work for Mukesh, there is no man in India or on this planet who will take the framework to where we are today in the last 18 months than him. And I genuinely believe that. And when you look at and what he has done for the nation in the last 18 months, if you look at the policies, a unified license and service. Remember, business is business. It's important for us to sustain a business. And we've had great conversation with our partners on how to sustain businesses without compromising on innovation, affordability, and customer advocacy. I think it's extremely important. A single license fee filing. Today, if you look at it, there are 22 access areas across India. Do we need 22 filings in a new world? We are in an all-IP network. Do I need a POI for NLD? Do I need a POI for ILD? Do I need a POI for access? We need one converged POI. We have one network, one POI, if you will, and one nation, correct? And this one POI, now, there could be billing issues because it's an ILD network. Good. That's called a CDR. Through a CDR, I can determine whether it's an NLD call, ILD call, rate it any which way you want. In the 5G era, or even in the 4G era, the good thing is all operators have adopted it. Should we deal with E1s and E3s? What world are we in? Let us innovate and show progress. And enabling convergence across broadcasting. Like I said, I don't believe it's a telecom policy event. I think it's digital, broadcasting, telecom. It's all converged. It's extremely important we do that. Why shouldn't we have fixed number portability? I didn't see the BSNL chairman here. It'll be great to get fixed number rates higher. When you have fiber to the world and fiber to the home and connectivity to the home, it is extremely important to have number portability. When I go to the US as an example, do I need to worry about porting one number from my home to cell to home? No. Why should it? Why should you? Because we live in a converged world. And by the way, the other main important thing is if we don't have the right of way, we do not have fiber implemented, then we really will be challenged to deliver on a 5G infrastructure. Now, mandatory testing of telecom equipment, I see it could be a big obstacle in terms of innovation, because whoever tests the equipment, believe me, each network is different. A Verizon network, AT&T network, Airtel network, Reliance network, each one of them uses, as an example, a Cisco box. Can you put that Cisco box on one network because it works there and put it on another network and it magically works? No, sir. And no, ma'am. It does not work. You will have to do the right interoperability, and you will have to do the right integration. Data sharing and storing, and I think I touched that. When data is stored outside India, how do we manage data breaches? And USO funds, I sincerely believe, should not be wasted on obsolete technologies. It should be on progressive technology, because rural India needs that. Thank you, everyone, because I look forward to, with each one of you, creating a digital, progressive, inclusive India, where each one of us are history makers. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.